Hello and welcome all. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with me while I share. Hello all. Welcome to this Oxford Green Tech webinar in conjunction with B4 Live. First of all, just a simple bit of housekeeping. Can you please keep yourself muted? And please use the chat box for any questions. We do have a question and answer session at the end, and we are also, just to let you know, we are recording this as well. Some of you may know me, but if you don't, I'm Lewis Knight. I'm from Oxfordshire Green Tech, and alongside B4, we are putting on this webinar today all about the Energy Superhub. So, the Energy Superhub is a world's first project that is pioneering an integrated approach to decarbonising power, transport and heat to accelerate Oxford's journey to zero carbon. It's a 3-year, £41 million project, and it's going to showcase a powerful network of rapid electric vehicles, charging, hybrid battery energy storage, low carbon heating and smart energy management, and is hopefully going to provide a model for cities around the world to cut carbon emissions and improve air quality. The project consortium includes Pivot Power, Oxford City Council, Habitat Energy, Kensor Contracting, Redtea Energy and the University of Oxford. And I'll just leave you with the quick words of ex-Energy and Clean Growth Minister Claire Perry. The Energy Superhub Oxford has the potential to completely change the way people go about their daily lives, from going to work on an electric bus to using the heat rising from the earth to heat your homes without gas. So I thank you all for joining us to hear directly from some of the project partners on the latest developments in this amazing project and what impact they hope the project will have both here in Oxford but also further afield. Before I hand over to the Superhub team, I'm just going to give a really quick introduction to Oxfordshire Green Tech, so please do bear with me. There you go. So Oxfordshire Green Tech, what is it? It is a business network for the low carbon future. We launched last year with our vision to supercharge the low carbon economy across Oxfordshire by bringing together green-minded organisations to do more, faster and at a lower cost. Green Tech is a collaboration between sustainability charity Bioregional, that's who I work for, Cherwell District Council and also Cambridge Clean Tech, and it was born out of the county-wide Oxford programme. What do? We run events like this to share knowledge and facilitating networking, and we've been ever present during this COVID-19 pandemic, running lots of online webinars and workshops. We have a number of special interest groups focused around low carbon mobility, circular economy, the built environment, and also access to finance. And we do provide training, practical support and advice to our members. Our network's grown to over 100 members, and we work closely with our partners at Cambridge Clean Tech at the other end of the OxCam knowledge arc, and members of Oxfordshire Green Tech benefit from automatic membership of Cambridge Clean Tech and vice versa, so thus increasing the visibility, collaboration and business opportunities. If you're interested in finding out any more, then please do get in touch with myself or Philippa. Our details will be on the last slide today, but also do check out our website. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the Superhub team. First of all, I'm hoping we have Tom with us. Is Tom?
Hello.
Hello, Tom. You are here. Fantastic. So Tom is going to give an overview of the Energy Superhub programme. Just as a way of introduction, Tom was first elected to the City Council in 2014 as Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Green Transport and Zero Carbon Oxford. He has developed the Oxford Citizens Assembly on climate change, a £19 million budget to implement its recommendations, measures to create Britain's first net zero carbon council by 2020, and the zero emission zone to restrict polluting vehicles. Tom, that's a fantastic introduction. I hope it is over to you.
Thanks very much. Can I just check that people can see me, they can hear me? We're not playing a game of unmute yourself. We're all fine? Perfect. Hello?
Hello, Tom. We can all hear you and see you. Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you for the indications you can hear me. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be with you all. I'm just very sorry that we can't all be together physically. I think we're all sort of missing that human connection and that exchange of ideas face to face, but at the very least we get to do this digitally. I'm really thrilled to be here because for Oxford City Council, the Energy Superhub is absolutely mission critical for us. As a council, we are a democratically elected and organised body within the city itself. And as a consequence of that, the citizens of Oxford look to the City Council to take a steer in two distinct areas of decarbonisation. The first is that we would look ourselves to reduce our carbon footprint, but as we're only responsible for 1% of emissions in the city, that we'd use our placemaking powers, our convening powers, to bring together partners so that we can all collectively reduce our emissions as a city and achieve a zero carbon Oxford as quickly as possible. So because we are responsible for 1% of emissions, the City Council is going to be embarking upon a quite rapid decarbonisation plan. We are going to be becoming net zero carbon this year through the purchase of green gas, and any remaining emissions will be offsetting through biodiversity planting. That steer came through very heavily to us from the work that we've been doing over the last year in terms of engaging our communities, but also principally, as you were hearing it referred to, Oxford Citizens Assembly on climate change. This Citizens Assembly was the first by a UK city. I think probably it stands up still as the most sophisticated example of a Citizens Assembly. And we wanted to convene it because we wanted to know what people with a range of viewpoints and backgrounds thought ought to be the case for Oxford. What is our climate mission? Because climate can often feel overwhelming, it can feel disempowering. It can also, at a time of austerity and limited funding, cause the council some headaches as we're thinking about what to invest in. But by bringing together a range of viewpoints and backgrounds, we were very clearly told by those people in that assembly that the City Council ought to be doing more, we ought to be going faster, we ought to be making a priority of the climate breakdown issue, and we ought to be working with our partners in order to build a zero carbon city as quickly as possible. And that was phenomenal to hear. When you hear all people talked to by experts, 27 experts who talked about buildings, energy, waste, transport, and biodiversity. When you hear them talk to about climate breakdown and their response is, okay, I get this. What next? What for me? What for my family? What should I do? What should I encourage my city council to do? What should I encourage their partners to do? That was a light bulb moment for us, even for a council that for 10 years has done significant work to address our climate breakdown. So we're doubling down on our climate agenda. As you were hearing, we have got a zero emission zone, which has unfortunately had to be postponed because we couldn't consult businesses at the very point of the start of the pandemic when most of them were trying to figure out whether they could survive or not to take part in our consultation. We'll be rolling out the consultation in October, but we're still fully committed to restricting polluting vehicles coming into the city centre and moving out as quickly as possible to the rest of the city, a zero emission zone. We're committed to requiring our bus fleets in the city to be as zero emitting as possible, as quickly as possible. And we've got our bus fleets going on a journey with us, upgrading their own buses to take part in that. And we're working with our taxi fleet in order to make sure that they are able to transition as quickly as possible to a zero carbon fleet. We've zero emission fleet. We've set them the deadline of 2025. And for the council to do all of these things is going to be challenging. We have got limited funds, but also we don't have enormous ranges of powers and levers to pull on. What's game changing for us is our partnership with Energy Superhub Oxford, because it allows us to actually take all those emitters on a journey with us. So in terms of the taxi trade, the Energy Superhub will be fantastic for supporting our taxi drivers to transition more speedily towards zero emitting black cabs. For our bus companies, the Energy Superhub will be fantastic at linking up with their depots to give them the opportunity to move towards electrification faster. And the hope is that Oxford will be the first all-electric bus town. We've got a bid in with government and we're really hopeful about that. And equally, in terms of installation of electric vehicle charging points, we've got grand plans for the investment in Redbridge, but also for the installation of EV charging points around the city. and Energy Superhub is going to be a game changer to allow us to increase the supply of those. We're really excited to be working with the Superhub. We're really excited to be working with Pivot Power and Genza. We're really excited to be working with Green Tech. We were given clear steers by the Citizens Assembly to go further and faster. That led to a paper with 53 recommendations for us to do just that. And if you look at all of those recommendations, the Energy Superhub is a really key part of how we actually can deliver on those recommendations. I'll close just by saying that we're living through a time of coronavirus. I think the fact that we've managed to keep things on schedule and stick to a very tight timetable as a partnership has been phenomenal, and it's a testimony to how well the private sector and the public sector are working closely together. I think we're also reinventing this sense of what it is for the public and private sectors to be working together. I think too often think of government in the very narrow sense of central government. They think of Whitehall as being the puller of all the levers and where all the decision making happens. But actually, local councils, though we've suffered that decade of austerity, we're really innovative, we're really creative. We want to reach out and work with our private partners. We want to make the best of those opportunities for our city. And I think the example that we're setting with Pivot Power is brilliant for that. And I'll close just by saying that if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's about the need to be incorporating evidence and learning and preparation into our approach. And all of that is important, not just for tackling the pandemic, but to be climate resilient and building the industries of the future. And I think we've got a lot to learn from the pandemic that we're carrying into our relationship with Pivot Power and the Energy Superhub. And I'll close there. We're really proud to be working with Pivot Power. We're really proud to have the two Innovate demonstrator projects happening locally. And over to Tim.
Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, next up is Tim, and I understand Tim's colleague Nicole is going to be sharing the screen. So just as a way of introduction to Tim, Tim Rose works for Pivot Power. He is the program manager for the entire Energy Superhub Oxford project and is coordinating the activities of all the partners to make sure that it stays on track, meets its deliverables over the 3-year time span. Tim, it's lovely to have you with us.
Thanks, Lewis. Yeah, great. We just wait for the, there we are. Thank you, Nicole. And I'll just, great, ask you to move those forward. Fantastic. Well, thanks, Lewis, and thanks to Tom for a great introduction and summary of Oxford's exciting and ambitious decarbonisation plans. It's great to feel a part of that. As Lewis said, I'm Tim Rose. I'm the program manager for the Superhub project, and over the next 10 minutes or so, I'd like to give you a brief introduction to what the Superhub's about, tell you a bit about who we are and what we're doing. So, Nicole, can you move to the first slide, please? So, Energy Superhub Oxford is one of 4 demonstrator projects under the UK Industrial Strategies Prospering from the Energy Revolution programme. It's a £41 million project, part funded by Innovate UK, all with the aim of showcasing smart local energy systems with a view to potential future rollouts, all in support of UK net zero. So ESO is a world-first project integrating power, transport and heat to support that journey to zero carbon that Tom was talking about. We're showcasing hybrid battery energy storage, rapid electrical vehicle charging and low carbon heating, all brought together by smart energy management systems. And we want this to offer one model for how we might roll out smart local energy systems around the UK beyond this project. So who are we? Lewis also already mentioned the partners. There are 6 of them. Pivot Power is the lead in the project, but clearly Oxford City Council is an absolutely core member of the team, involved in many other related sort of projects. And along with them, we have Habitat Energy, Kenza Contracting, Invinity Energy Systems, and the University of Oxford. I'm going to explain a bit where all those fit in on the next slide. If you can move on, Nicole. Thanks. So the Energy Superhub delivers innovation in 3 areas. Firstly, in energy, this is the first of those boxes. We're installing the world's first transmission-connected hybrid battery. So this consists of a giant lithium-ion battery and a smaller flow battery. Now, these are two very different chemistries, but together they'll allow us to optimize our approach towards overall battery flexibility, allowing us to maximize energy trading revenues and how we provide services to the national grid. And this part's led by Pivot Power, with Invinity providing the vanadium flow battery. Secondly, in transport, we're connecting a high power network, which will provide EV charging at scale for private vehicles at our Superhub Park and Ride site, and for charging of council vehicles. However, we want to see this expand to buses and other commercial fleets in the near future as soon as we can. So Oxford City Council, the lead here, with Pivot building a lot of the key infrastructure that supports that. Thirdly, in heat, we're installing over 300 ground source heat pumps in residential and commercial properties around the city. These will be controlled with smart technology to optimize temperature profiles and reduce bills. And Kenza are leading on this, and Matt's going to explain more about this a little later on in this webinar. And then finally, the whole system is controlled by a machine learning based optimization and trading engine, as we call it. And that's the dark blue line across the middle, which is being developed by Habitat. Now, this will manage the batteries to maximize energy market trading revenues, to forecast demand and control energy dispatch for the EV network. And then finally, Oxford University will be evaluating the project. So they'll assess both the social and environmental benefits once the project's operational, and also on the technical side, they'll be modeling the operation of a battery in a very detailed way to help us learn lessons for how we manage large batteries like this for future projects. Next slide, please. So this project is all about innovation. And as I mentioned, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the first two of those boxes. So as I mentioned, the transmission connected hybrid battery will be the first of its type. It consists of a 50 megawatt lithium ion battery and a 2 megawatt flow battery, which for the first time, the flow battery includes something we call an overdrive facility, allowing us to boost the power for short periods and provide greater flexibility. Because the flow battery experiences no degradation, this will allow us to optimize the lifetime of the lithium battery. This hybrid battery will automatically trade on the day ahead, the intraday, and the balancing mechanism energy markets via the trading engine that I mentioned. And we'll also be providing frequency response services to the national grid. And to give you an idea of scale, you can see a representation of the site in the image here. The lithium battery is on the right-hand side, and that's consisting of 19 40-foot containers, plus the associated electrical equipment. And then on the left-hand side, we have the flow battery, which is 28 20-foot containers. So you can see this is a pretty substantial piece of infrastructure. And the grey sort of area behind is actually the existing national grid substation. So we're right adjacent to that in Cowley, just on the southeast of the city. Next slide, please. So the project will also be the world's first transmission connected EV network. It's about 8 kilometers in length. And we can provide large amounts of power, up to 25 megawatts. That's sufficient to charge 100 ultra rapid chargers simultaneously, which is the equivalent of powering about 100 supermarkets. And the first 50 public charge points will be installed at Redbridge Park and Ride on the west of the city, catering for a wide range of vehicles and charging speeds. Also, as part of the project, we're electrifying the first 40 of the council's fleet vehicles, purchasing a range of new vehicles from tipper trucks to light commercial vehicles, and we hope even an electric refuse collection vehicle. The system will eventually allow us to shift load to overnight charging to reduce fleet energy costs. And we'll be simulating this smart charging capability in the first phase of the project. We're also running a try before you buy taxi scheme, as Tom mentioned, offering local drivers a chance to try an electric taxi for themselves, and hopefully encouraging uptake of EVs in the 100+ Oxford Hackney cab fleet. That trade has been very hard hit recently by the coronavirus, and we're really hoping that we can do things to help encourage that uptake over the next couple of years. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go into heat. This is the third area of innovation. I'm not going to steal Matt's thunder. He'll explain much more about that a bit later, but just to recognize that third box again. And on to the next one. So when is all this happening? The Superhub project started in April 2019, and it officially runs for 3 years, ending mid-2022. So we've been fortunate not to have been impacted too much by the coronavirus, as Tom mentioned. And after a year of planning and preparation, the serious action is all starting to happen right now. We're beginning the construction of the battery site actually next week, and the construction of the cable route will start in the autumn. And meanwhile, most of the vehicles have already been ordered, and a number of those have arrived already. So the go live for the system is planned for early 2021. And that will mean the battery is connected and operating, and the cable route is providing that power to the Superhub at Redbridge, where we'll have a number of charge point operators providing charging services to the public. So watch out for news and developments on our website as we move towards our formal launch in the early part of next year. Of course, although the formal Innovate UK funded project itself ends in 2022, this is just the beginning, we hope. We intend the Energy Superhub to continue to grow and take on new partners and customers for the next 10 years, and I'll touch on that in a minute. So next slide, Nicole. So just a quick summary of our achievements to date. We're well advanced with the planning and the project design. On the battery side, the lithium battery has been ordered. There was an announcement about that a couple of months ago, and the flow battery development is complete as well. The trading engine is developed, and that's in test. We've ordered the majority of the vehicles, as I mentioned, and we'll shortly select the charge point operators for the Superhub itself. The first heat customers have confirmed go ahead, and as Matt will probably explain a little bit later. So all in all, we're making really strong progress. Things are moving forward fast, and we're really looking forward to an exciting year of delivering stuff through the second half of this year. So next slide. So to finish my presentation, I'd like to outline a little bit more about what we hope for the future of ESO. The system I've outlined and what you can see here is what we'll deliver in the early part of next year. But the exciting thing about this project are the opportunities to expand the network. Next slide. So we're in well advanced discussions with 2 bus companies in Oxford about bringing them onto the system. And we like to think, and Tom mentioned this already, we're well positioned, Oxford is well positioned to win the £50 million bus town competition recently announced, and which the submissions have gone in on. And this would indeed, it would be a huge decarbonisation and air quality win for the city, allowing us to electrify the whole of the Oxford bus fleet, and potentially looking to other national bus companies as well in the area. So that's very exciting. We really hope that we can make progress on that as the next phase in the project. And then the last one. In the longer term, we'd love to extend the network out to other fleet and logistics companies. We're in discussion with a number of those at the moment in and around the city. Also to other park and ride hubs would be great to see in the longer term and possibly beyond. So it's also important to note this is the first of such network to be installed. Pivot Power have connection points agreed with National Grid for another 39 of these batteries and superhubs up and down the country. So that's a very exciting project program, and we hope this is just the beginning. And we're very much looking forward to making this real in Oxford and showing that we can roll out some of the benefits of this up and down the country. So that's me done. It's a very brief introduction to the Superhub project. I'll pass you back to Lewis, and then I think over to Matt. And obviously, I'll be very happy to answer questions later on anything that we've just talked about. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Tim. That was fantastic. And now, yeah, as Tim mentioned, I'm going to pass over to Matt. So we have Dr. Matt Cruella from Kenta. Matt joined Kenta in 2013 and has overseen the development of Kenta Contracting's large-scale delivery operations, and has been helping to pioneer the use of ambient shared ground loop, ground source heat pump systems in the UK. That's a bit of a mouthful, Matt, and has previously worked in astrophysics, including 3 years in the US on a NASA-funded project. So Nat, without further ado, I'm going to mute myself and hand over to you.
Thank you, Lewis. Fairly big up there. We're going to talk a little bit about the heat part of this project and hopefully touch on what a ground source heat pump is and how you connect lots of them together in clusters to get even better benefits. I am going to skip through the slides quite quickly and not read out all the bits, but these will be available afterwards so that you can go back and pick up some of the details. So hopefully this is just a flavour. So the first thing is why heat and why is it important? Well, it is one of the largest producers of carbon emissions in the UK at around 37%. We're going to be concentrating on the left-hand side of this diagram here with the space heating and cooling and the hot water side of things, which represents around 21% of UK carbon emissions right now. At the moment, heat pumps are still rolling out pretty low level, 20 to 25,000 a year, but the Committee on Climate Change think that we should install 2.5 million of them by 2030 if we're going to stand any chance of hitting our 2050 net zero targets. So it's pretty clear that although people don't know much about them now, they're going to have to know a lot about them very shortly. Very quickly, what are they? I've put a link there to a more detailed explanation. But essentially, they're an electrically driven device that extracts heat from the environment. So it takes, in the ground source case, it takes loads and loads of very low grade heat of between 2 and 8 Celsius, and it compresses that and ups the temperature and delivers it into the homes at somewhere between 45 and 60 degrees. The really cool thing is that the amount of heat you get out of it is much higher than the amount of electricity it takes to run it, typically 3 to 4 times. And that's why they end up being a very low carbon heat source. Right now, if you install a ground source heat pump, you'll get a carbon saving of 60 to 70% compared to a fossil fuel gas boiler. On the right-hand side, you can see the carbon intensity of the grid. And obviously, if you use a ground source heat pump, you knock around down to about a third of that level because of the heat you're bringing in from the environment. So you can see the little red cross there showing grid carbon intensity a couple of years ago. It's now dropped a little further. And one impact of coronavirus and the lockdown is that the energy demand on the grid has dropped and the percentage that's supplied by renewable and low carbon generating sources has increased. And we're effectively running the grid now the way we are going to be running it in 2035 to 2040. And so yeah, it's a lovely little glimpse of the future. So if one positive thing can come out of that, that's this. You can see it's a very clear low path to low carbon heating. If you install that heat pump today and get your 60 to 70% savings, then as you increase the renewable generation on the grid, as grid battery balancing and electric vehicle charging all come on board, then that heat pump will automatically get lower carbon in the future without you having to do anything to the heat pump itself. The way Kenza are approaching putting them together is something called a shared ground loop array, where lots of properties share boreholes, and you can get lots of cost savings that way. You drill less boreholes, but much deeper, and that costs less, and you then start to work into factors where some of the heat pumps are running at different times, so you can get more efficiency savings out of the ground array. And here's a little animation that shows some of the ways you can do it. At ESO, we're going to be using closed loop boreholes, so exactly as you see here, but there's various other energy sources you can use, such as shallow aquifers, mines, and seawater. You can use as the heat source for your network. And one thing you can do with this low temperature heat network is you can split it up into smaller chunks very easily. It looks a little bit like the existing gas system. So right now, if you've got a gas heated home, somebody else will own the pipes in the ground that supply you with gas, and then you own your own boiler. This is exactly the same. It's the new version of it where we're supplying low grade energy to your own appliance, which is upgrading it to heat your home and provide your hot water. If view we're taking for Energy Superhub Oxford is to use a smart heating system. So the first project we're going to look at in a minute is retrofitting 60 homes, and we're just going to use standard off-the-shelf radiators, so really, really simple to understand, really easy for everyone to get their heads around. They'll be slightly larger than they would be for a gas boiler, but they'll still fit comfortably in the property. So it'll be a very easy to see and feel and understand system, just like if you've ever lived with gas heating, you'll get it straight away. One thing we're bringing to it is a smart thermostats. So we're going to be partnering with Switchy, which develop an internet-connected smart thermostat that automatically learns how you like to keep your home warm. So it kind of picks up when you're in and out and how warm you like to be. So you just kind of push plus and minus, and it learns your habits and sets up the heating schedules to suit you best. We're going to get 60-degree hot water, so the same as you would get with a gas boiler system. And the real extra innovation that Energy Superhub Oxford is bringing is, once we've learnt your preferences and timings and temperatures for your heating, we're then going to synchronize that with the lowest cost and lowest carbon grid electricity to come up with a new heating schedule that lowers the heating bills even further and decarbonises even further. The way that works very briefly is, if you can see this red dotted line here, or dashed line, that's the price of electricity in half-hour segments, so 48 of those in a 24-hour period, midnight to midnight. And you can see that that is varying during the day. If you look here in the afternoon, it's pushing 30p on some days. The flat line there is set at 16p, which is what most of us pay approximately for electricity right now on a flat rate. And if you look there, if we take, let's say, this one here in the afternoon at sort of 4 o'clock, we take that half an hour segment. And if we can instead heat the property at a time when electricity is cheaper, and maybe take it to 22 degrees because electricity is cheap, and allow it to cool down in those expensive electric times, you can see very easily that we're going to be able to reduce the cost of electricity. You can see also that most of the time, half-hourly price electricity is cheaper than a flat rate. The flat rate costs are set because of that afternoon peak when everyone wants electricity. Industry is still going, everyone's coming home from school and work and turning appliances on. So moving energy consumption away from those peaks is going to give great energy cost savings and bill savings to residents. The really happy coincidence, or it's not really coincidence, but and there shows the carbon intensity of the electricity grid, and you can see when electricity is expensive, it is also high carbon. That's shouldn't be that much of a surprise, because renewable solar, wind generating kind of fits the baseline, and then we turn on fast reacting devices like gas when the grid's under strain. And it is also then going to help the grid balance up, because there in the afternoon, when electricity is high carbon and expensive, you're also putting quite a lot of strain on the grid trying to supply all this electricity out to people. So by reducing that on the grid, we're getting all three benefits in one go. This is the first site we're looking at. So you can see on the little map in the bottom right-hand corner there, it's a site in Blackbird Leys, down to the southeast of Oxford. And this particular first project is in association with Stonewater Housing Association, and they have 60 properties that we're going to work on as part of Energy Superhub Oxford. 56 of them currently are heated with night store electricity, so that's expensive, hard to control, and high carbon. So you just get a win in every way you look at it. And the rest, the final 4, are currently heated with gas combi boilers. So all of those are going to be converted to ground source, and all of them are then going to be converted over to smart meters, half-hourly billing, and smart control of the heating system. The smart bit of it we've developed at Kenza as part of Energy Superhub Oxford. So we're taking that switchy learning system, folding it in with the price of electricity, doing some calculations, and then we're sending a new heating schedule back to Switchy's server, and they're beaming it back down to the thermostats in the properties. Drilling was supposed to start on this one on the 6th of April. Coronavirus obviously paid to that, as you can imagine, but we've got the risk assessments in place. We're already test drilling on other sites, and we're hoping to begin this one around the end of July, potentially beginning of August. And all being well, and no horrendous second spikes precluding, we'll get onto the internal installations from September and should complete all this November. So these properties will actually be running the smart control system this winter, and we'll be starting to get data out of them. So apologies for the very whistle-stop tour. Obviously, speak to me afterwards if you need any more information or have a look through the slides. There's my contact details there, and a little bit about Kenta Contracting and how it fits in the wider group. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Matt, for that. Brilliant. We have just under, we have just under 10 minutes. So I wondered if anyone has any questions. Please do put them into the chat box. We already have a number here, so I'll just start from the top. Tim and Matt, so this is a question from Peter. How did you decide on the ratio of lithium to vanadium batteries? So 50 to 2 megawatts.
I'll take that. That's interesting question, actually. I think the decision was really around the available scale of the different types of technology. I mean, for a start, the overall grid connection that we had the offer for was 50 megawatts, so we knew what we were aiming for as a target. Vanadium batteries are, I think, that they're less commercially developed than lithium, and as you can see from the shot I showed over the picture, they take up a lot more space. And actually, the 2 megawatt version that we have here is pretty large in relation to anything else that's been installed of this type. So we were really trying to provide as larger capacity as we could there within an acceptable cost. And then what we're actually going to do anyway is install the full 50 megawatt of lithium. So we have a 50 megawatt lithium and a 2 megawatt flow. But with the 50 megawatt connection, we'll be managing between those two. So I think at this stage it was difficult, again, from a cost point of view, to go much larger than that 2 megawatts. So probably cost was a big part of that discussion.
Thanks, Tim. And just a really interesting and pertinent question from Sarah is obviously this has received quite a lot of Innovate UK, UKRI funding. How does the project become sustainable beyond that initial funding? You know, this is obviously a demonstrator and is about proving the business model.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me talk for. I mean, it's probably slightly separate response to that from the heat side. Maybe Matt will like to comment on that. But just if I just talk about this from the power and the transport side, it's a really interesting question. I mean, without the grant funding, we wouldn't have been able to install the length of cable of network that we are doing. And whilst at the moment, a 50 megawatt battery will absolutely stand on its own 2 feet, and the revenues that we can secure from that make that a viable case in its own. The same isn't yet true of an EV network. So, and that's because of the level of EV uptake at the moment. So what we're seeing at the moment is that the economics of this project depend on both of these, but the battery is sort of supplementing the EV network side. As the uptake increases, and certainly as we bring more customers onto this project, and certainly more commercial customers, you know, the economics of the EV network will be enhanced, and you'll have a more balanced position. And certainly for future projects, therefore, as time goes on, as EV penetration really increases, you know, the EV networks will stand on their own 2 feet, as will the batteries. So it's an interesting situation at the moment. It's slight cross-subsidization, if you like, but that was necessary, and the grant was necessary. And also, you know, in supporting the Infinity battery as well, which again is a little bit less developed commercially, if you like. I mean, there's a fully commercial offering, but in order to make this work, we needed that grant funding to provide the innovation that we are doing in that battery.
Thanks, Tim. And I can just see that I think Tina's put something in the chat box there about one of the project outcomes is actually to support the government in its focus for future funding as well.
Yeah.
That's
very true.
It's about the government learning, I think, from the project to work out where it needs to focus its funding. That's one of the things that we'll learn from what we're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, just to emphasise what Tina was saying. I mean, the whole point about the PIFA project, this Prospering from the Energy Revolution project, which this is a part, is about learning lessons to work out what the next phase of that is and how we're going to practically roll it out. So absolutely, a lot of this is about, and that's where the funding is going into really learning those lessons and understanding how you can apply this practically elsewhere.
Thanks, Tim. Just one more really quick question, and I think this one's directed at Matt. With the work being done in the ground source heat pump installation, is any other work being done at the same time to those properties to improve the fabric to reduce the heating demand?
Not as part of Energy Superhub Oxford. Stonewater Housing have had a programme of upgrading fabric installation, and these properties have already been treated, so they've already got good double glazing windows, cavity wall insulation and loft insulation in place. That was one of the reasons we identified these ones as being suitable.
Lovely. Thank you, Matt, for that. We will have to, unfortunately, there are a lot more questions, and unfortunately, we do have to end it there because it is now almost 1:45. So I just wanted to make you aware of a number of other webinars that we have coming up over the next couple of weeks. We will be taking a short break over the summer, but we are building up a sort of autumn-based calendar. Really, it is my time to sort of thank Tom, Tim and Matt, and also Tina for bringing their knowledge to this webinar. It's been extremely interesting, and I'm very excited to sort of see where this very innovative project goes in the future. And I would love to work with you guys to sort of put something on in 6 months just to see where we are moving forward. And I'd also just like to thank our friends at B4 for helping to bring together this webinar, hosting us here today and doing all the background tech work and the sign-ups as well. So without further ado, I'm going to close the event, and I wish you all a lovely rest of the day. So thank you all, and see you all soon, I hope.